Homer, a blind poet in the 8th century BC, composed a poem that would stand alongside the Odyssey as the twin pillar of Western literature. That epic poem is known as the Iliad. Spanning 24 books, it's a war story about the siege of the city of Troy, pitting the invading Greek armies against the defending people of Troy. We tend to think of the heroes of the Iliad, men like Achilles, Hector, and Diomedes, as fearless figures who never doubted themselves. But the text tells that these men were not immune to fear. They panicked, they wept, they froze, they ran away. Today, the battlefield has simply shifted from the plains of Troy to the boardrooms, businesses, and relationships of the modern world. Human technology has changed, but the biological reaction to stress has not. So if you find yourself freezing in the face of a difficult task or wanting to feel ready before you act, you're fighting the very same battle that these heroes fought 3,000 years ago. So join me as we dive in together and take a look at the 8 ancient laws for doing hard things and how to apply them in the 21st century, all from the philosophy of the Iliad. Law 1. The Achilles choice. Achilles, the central figure of the poem fighting from the invading Greek side, spends a huge portion of the story sitting in his tent, refusing to fight. On the surface, it looks like he's just angry at his commander, but deeper down, Achilles is tortured by a choice. He's the only hero in the text who knows exactly how his life will end, and he has to choose between 2 mutually exclusive futures. His mother, the goddess Thetis, reveals to him the twofold fate. She tells him that life can go one of 2 ways, but never both. Option 1. Go home, marry, have children and live a long, happy, peaceful life, but be completely forgotten. Option 2. Stay at Troy, fight and die young. But his name will be remembered for thousands of years. For a long time, Achilles is paralysed because he wants both. He wants the immortality of the warrior and the longevity of the farmer. But the turning point comes when he stops negotiating. He realises that meaning is expensive. So he chooses the short, glorious life. Once he accepts that he's going to die young, his hesitation vanishes. He storms the battlefield with a clarity that terrifies everyone else, because he's already accepted the worst-case scenario. The word decide comes from the Latin decidere, which means to cut off. To make a real decision means to cut off the alternative. It means killing one version of your future so that the other may live. We're paralysed because we want 2 contradictory things at the same time. We want the reward of risk, but the safety of the comfort zone. You must choose your struggle. You must stand at the crossroads and consciously bid farewell to the path you're not taking. Once you accept that every yes demands a no, the paralysis breaks. Law 2. The Diomedes rule. We treat courage as a prerequisite for action, when in reality, it's a result of it. Homer explores this truth through the character of Diomedes. In Book 5 of the Iliad, Diomedes isn't the strongest hero like his fellow Greek warrior Achilles, nor is he the smartest like Odysseus. Yet, for one specific day, he dominates the battlefield more completely than anyone else. Why? Because he possesses a unique psychological trait: absolute, unthinking aggression. The text describes a moment where the chaos of war becomes overwhelming. The battlefield is confusing, terrifying, blinded by dust. Most men are paralysed by sensory overload. But Diomedes doesn't stop to process the fear. He moves with such ferocious speed that the goddess Athena lifts the mist from his eyes. This mist is the cloud of confusion that binds mortals. Once it's lifted, Diomedes sees the world with terrifying clarity. He can even distinguish the gods walking among men. Now you'd think most mortals would be paralysed by the sight of a god, but Diomedes is in such a profound state of action that he bypasses the fear entirely. He attacks Ares, the god of war himself, He drives his spear into the god's belly and sends him screaming back to Mount Olympus. Diomedes didn't wait for the mist to clear so he could fight. He fought so hard that the mist cleared. This reveals a psychological reality that most modern neuroscience supports. Fear lives in the gap. It lives in the quiet space between thinking about the task and actually doing the task. The Diomedes rule is the understanding that you cannot negotiate with the gap. You must shorten it to 0. When you have to make the cold call, you pick up the phone and dial before your internal monologue has a chance to speak. The mist only lifts when you're in motion. If you want to see this in the world clearly, and if you want to conquer the gods of your own life, you have to stop waiting for the courage to arrive and simply attack the day until the courage catches up with you. Law 3. The Patroclus strategy. Patroclus is the best friend of Achilles, but he's nothing like him. While Achilles is a ruthless killing machine, Patroclus is described as kind, gentle, and empathetic. He's a healer, not a destroyer. But in Book 16, the situation becomes desperate. Achilles refuses to fight due to his wounded pride, and without him, the Trojan army breaks through the Greek defences and starts burning the ships. If the ships burn, every Greek soldier dies. Patroclus knows he has to act. He also knows the truth. If he runs out there as Patroclus, he'll be ignored. So he begs Achilles for his legendary armour. He puts it on, along with Achilles' famous horsehair-crested helmet. And the moment he steps onto the battlefield, something miraculous happens. He doesn't just look like Achilles, he starts fighting like him. The Trojans panic, believing the invincible hero has returned. Patroclus performed feats of strength he never could have achieved as himself, simply because he was wearing the identity of a hero. Studies show that if you put people in a doctor's white lab coat, their attention span increases. If you put them in a formal suit, their negotiation skills improve. The mask doesn't just change how others see you, it changes how you see yourself. It signals to your brain that it's time to switch modes. So the next time you're facing a high-pressure situation yourself, say a negotiation or a public speech, don't go into it as your default self. Your default self is full of doubts and insecurities. Instead, use the Patroclus strategy. Create an avatar, put on the armour. This might be literal, like wearing a specific power suit or a watch that makes you feel formidable. Or it might be mental, like adopting a persona, for example, a fictional character best suited to that role. Wear the mask until the job is done, and often you'll find that by the time you take it off, the courage has become real. Law 4. The Odysseus anchor. In Book 2, Homer writes that a false rumour spread through the Greek camp that the war was over. The reaction was immediate. Thousands of men dropped their weapons and stampeded towards the ships, desperate to go home. They weren't leaving because it's the right strategic move. They left because everyone else was running. But in the middle of this chaos, one man stood completely still. Odysseus. He realised that if they got on those ships, everything would be lost. He grabs the royal scepter and charges into the mob. He physically stops commanders and shouts at them to regain their composure. He beats soldiers who are screaming. He acts as an anchor in a storm. Single-handedly, he stops the rush and forces the army to face the war. This is the concept of the Odysseus anchor. So, to apply the Odysseus anchor, you must identify the moments where your emotions aren't yours, but reflections of the crowd. So when you feel the urge to quit, ask yourself, am I quitting because my strategy failed, or am I quitting because everyone else is scared? The ability to stand still when the world is in chaos is a superpower. When the mob runs to the ships, the hard thing is to plant your feet, grab the scepter of your own judgment, and stay the course. Law 5. The Sarpedon contract. Homer introduces us to Sarpedon, a king and ally of the Trojans. In Book 12, Sarpedon is about to lead a suicide mission to storm the Greek fortifications. The air is thick with arrows, heavy stones are crushing skulls, and death is almost guaranteed. In the middle of this chaos, Sarpedon turns to his cousin Glaucus and starts talking about dinner. He asks a simple, haunting question. "Glaucus, why do our people back home give us the best seats at the banquet? Why do they fill our cups with the finest wine? Why do they give us the best cuts of meat and look at us like we're gods?" A lesser man would have answered, "Because we're royalty," or "because we deserve it." But Sarpedon sees the truth. He answers his own question. "We get the best food and the best seats specifically because we stand here in the front line where the fighting is the hottest." And in that moment, Sarpedon realized that his life is a transaction. The luxury he enjoys isn't a gift, it's a retainer fee. The comfort of the palace is the currency used to pay for the terror of the battlefield. He accepts the wine, so he's contractually obligated to accept the war. To take one without the other would be theft. This is the Sarpedon contract. It's the understanding that your benefits and your burdens come together, and you cannot separate them. The pressure you feel isn't a sign that something's wrong, it's evidence that you've taken on something meaningful. So when you feel overwhelmed, conduct a privilege audit. Look at your plate. Look at the freedom, the money, the trust or the love you have in your life. That's the wine. The difficult conversation you have to have today, the late night you have to work, the crisis you have to solve, that 5 a.m. alarm clock. That's simply the price of war. If you want to keep the best seat at the banquet, you have to stop complaining about the heat. You don't get to eat the meat, then run from the bill. Law 6. The Ajax grind. The Iliad teaches us a brutal but necessary counterlesson. Sometimes victory doesn't look like conquering the world. Sometimes victory just looks like not dying. Homer embodies this gritty reality in the character of Ajax the Great. Ajax is different from other heroes. He doesn't have the flash of Achilles or the cleverness of Odysseus. He rarely receives help from the gods. He's a giant, silent workhorse. And in Book 15, he faces the darkest hour of the entire war. The Trojans have broken through the defences. They're swarming all over the walls and have reached the Greek ships with torches. If the ships burn, the Greeks have no way home. They'll be slaughtered on the beach. Ajax ends up standing alone on the deck of a ship, wielding a massive pike, fighting off the entire Trojan army by himself. But eventually, he starts to tire. He's sweating, he's bleeding, and he's outnumbered. He isn't advancing. In fact, he's slowly being pushed back, inch by inch. He isn't winning in the traditional sense, he's just surviving. He shouts at the Trojans, "Come closer!" and physically shoves them off the hull. For hours, his entire existence is reduced to a single, ugly metric. Keep the fire away from the wood. He knows he can't kill them all. He knows he can't win the war today. His only job is to be the wall. His job is to endure the pressure long enough for the others to regroup. In your own life, you'll also hit periods of burnout, financial recession, or personal grief. The lesson from Ajax is that you must learn to respect the defensive game. When your business is hitting a recession, you don't need to try and 10x your revenue. You just need to stand on the deck and make payroll. Survival is a form of success. Holding the line is a form of victory. If you're in a dark season right now, stop beating yourself up for not moving forward. Instead, plant your feet, grip the pike, be the wall. If you're still standing when the sun comes up, you won. Law 7. The Hector Protocol. Hector is the Prince of Troy. The perfect warrior, the good husband, the noble father. He is the brave one. But in Book 22, he finds himself alone outside the city walls. The gates are locked behind him. Achilles, the invincible killing machine, is charging towards him across the plain. At this moment, Homer writes that shivers took hold of him. His nerve breaks completely. Hector turns around and runs. He doesn't just take a step back, he flees in full panic. He runs 3 laps around the city of Troy. The people on the walls are watching their champion run for his life. The Greek army is watching. It's a moment of total humiliation. The hero is having a panic attack. But eventually, Hector realizes he can't run forever. He realizes that death is inevitable. So he stops, plants his feet, catches his breath, and turns around to face the man he knows will kill him. And in that moment, he exclaims, "I will run from you no longer. Now my spirit drives me to stand and face you. Kill or be killed." And yes, he does die in the fight, but he dies facing forward. This is what's known as the Hector Protocol. The lesson is that trembling is permitted. If you're backstage about to give a speech and you feel like you're going to vomit, that's the running. And that's okay. You're not a coward, you're a primate with an adrenal system. The hard thing isn't becoming a person who never gets scared. That person doesn't exist. The hard thing is becoming the person who can feel the shivers, feel the urge to flee, and then, even if it's on the 3rd lap, plant your feet and turn around. Dignity isn't about the winning, it's about how you face the enemy. Law 8. The Priam Paradox. King Priam's son, Hector, had been killed. Achilles, consumed by a dark and toxic rage, is dragging Hector's corpse behind his chariot every day, refusing to let the family bury him. But Priam is the king of Troy. In Book 24, Priam's advisors tell him to stay safe behind the walls. They tell him to send an army or an ambassador. But Priam knows that force has failed. Anger has failed. Logic has failed. So he does the unthinkable. He fills a wagon with treasure and he rides out of the city gates, alone, at night, and unarmed. He sneaks into the Greek camp and walks into the tent of the man who murdered his child. But he doesn't shout. He doesn't demand his rights. Instead, he kneels. He takes the hand of Achilles, the hands that killed his son, and he kisses them. He says, "I've done what no other man on earth has done. I have kissed the hands of the man who killed my son." Think of your own father. This moment is the Priam paradox. By entering the room with 0 defense, he creates a shockwave that destroys Achilles' defenses. Achilles, who could not be stopped by armies or gods, is broken by an old man's tears. The rage dissolves instantly. The 2 enemies sit on the floor and weep together. Priam for his son, and Achilles for his own father. Priam walks out of that tent with his son's body. He achieved with a whisper what 10 years of war could not. The lesson is that when you're in a conflict that seems impossible to solve, a deadlock in a business deal or a marriage that's falling apart, your ego will tell you to fight harder. It will tell you to prove you're right. But the hard thing in that moment isn't fighting. It's surrendering the high ground. Priam teaches us that you don't always have to be the stone wall. Sometimes, to break that cycle of conflict, you have to be the water that flows around it. And that's our video. What did you think? Which of the 8 laws will you be considering more in the future? I know you guys rarely need prompting on this, but let us know what's on your mind in the comments. As always, I've been Dan, you've been awesome, and if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to check out our full Philosophies for Life playlist. And for more videos to help you find success and happiness using beautiful philosophical wisdom, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.